My name is Janice Carter. As I said, I'm an advocate and an administrative conflict resolution specialist, and this forum is around media, all types of media production. And I have co-authored a book with Les Brown and George Fraser and 31 other authors dealing with how we dealt with struggles of conflict in our relationships, whether it be an illness or male-female relationship. And are you best friends and are you not ready? And we see, and I know us girls sometimes are good and wired, we put the plan together for the marriage and then we wonder why it doesn't work. He wasn't ready or she wasn't ready.
But also, Janice, when you seek out these relationships and you start having those conversations, a lot of times when you're talking to the male, and I can speak from a woman's perspective, you must start listening to them. You must really listen to what they're saying to you. Because what I found, and after being married twice, and I said, okay, let's do the dating thing. And I even had to give that up for a while because I had to get to know me. I had to see what was going on with me for me to make some of the decisions that I was making. So when I started dating, if I met a guy that I like, I was like, oh, okay, I like him. And I kind of want to have a relationship with him. But he was steady saying to me, I'm not ready for that. I would like to be friends. Let's hang out for a while. But if I had in my mind that's what I wanted to do, I said, I can make him like me. I can make him like me. So I found myself in some other bad relationships. What I learned is that you have to listen to what that person's saying to you. You can't, like Ms. Janice said, you can't change anybody. You have to see where they're coming from, and you have to take that at face value. And I think that's the only way to have healthy relationships. Take people where they are.
I think you had a comment.
Yeah. Isn't that a quick question? I see two paradigms here. One is when we talk about a relationship, and when you all have been talking about a relationship, you went straight to marriage. And I didn't hear the relationship, I heard marriage. So it seemed to me that you looked at him, he looked at you, and you said, if I'm with you, then we're going to get married. But whatever a relationship incurs, I didn't hear what a relationship should be before we go for the standard paradigm in society that says you must marry him and he must marry you. I heard him say, and he was talking about his children and responsibility. I think that comes in a relationship, responsibility. That's what it starts with. And then what she was saying was listening. And then somebody said, and this is why when he got this, someone said that, I think it was you, that money, but I'm paraphrasing, that money is not important, that it's what's inside you or something. Maybe I missed that. I didn't quite get that.
Okay.
I didn't quite get it. So this is an article out of the Journal of Black Studies. And it was done in 1989, so that's a little dated, but I think things are worse. And it's page 324. Income inequality and unemployment. It says, perhaps at the core of the problems in black dating and marital relationships is the perennial problem of jobs and adequate income to provide material base for the meaningful and satisfying relationships. The security derived from one's employment has a bearing on one's sexual behavior. The extent to which the relationship can be satisfactorily depends in part on the extent to which one enters a relationship without having to worry about economic support. In other words, a successful relationship depends partly on the extent to which the partners are economically self-supporting. By several counts, however, blacks have not fared well as compared to other groups in society. But it seemed, according to the journal, and I think it's worse now, and when I say it's worse now, there are some other factors that are involved in it, and the other factors are double standards of males, and you were talking about that outside the relationship versus inside the relationship, and then inside again, people kept mentioning, oh, I heard marriage. And then there is the compatibility issue, and you spoke about that. I have a doctorate degree, a PhD, I think you said. And immediately I could see people's heads go down when you said that. And education is the other problem with, I shouldn't say it's a problem, it's a good problem. We're trying to find for black women a compatible mate. And that is someone who doesn't feel inferior to them based on their social status. And it depends on how much that is mirrored in society. Like you said, someone will walk up to you, and it could be you and your man, you and your husband, just you and a friend. They say, hello, Dr. So-and-so. And the person is immediately, if he isn't a strong person, diminished. And so, I mean, I was reading the article, I don't want to go through each one of them, but they used those factors based on education, employment, double standards, and then it went on to articulate the pool of black males, which is much diminished. I think it's like 61 to 100 black women. And then the acceptable thing is you're saying I've got to compete with her, so therefore I'm not listening because I actually want him, not saying you're doing that. Mm-hmm. So you take him, even though he's I don't want to say what, he's a loser, mm-hmm. and you take that loser because you're competing with her. Not you're competing for him, he's a loser, but you're competing against her. Mm-hmm. And so it's really between you and her, and he's it's like, he's the whatever,
It's like the prize.
between the two. And there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Well, I don't want to hog what you call me, but there was one other thing I wanted to mention, so until I can think of that clearly, mm-hmm. I'll pass on to the next person. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this all came out of his black male-female relationships, and it came out of the Journal of Black Studies, and this was March 1989, and they've got charts in it that talks about the comparability of men, women, and then of course the salary thing. Like if you make $200,000 and he makes like $25,000, he wants to know probably in his mind, why are you with him? Mm-hmm. And so.
And I think you get a lot of that.
Right.
Yes.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, those were some of the things I seen.
So I heard you say that's some good information. Mm-hmm. I heard you talk about money. I don't think I ever really said, and if I did, I didn't mean it this way. I said money's important. You still have to live. But where I'm coming from, and I think that's, this is a generational thing, a group we have at the table here, but where I'm coming from, I've dealt with that money thing and feeling like I have to have this money and I have to have these things. I'm 48 years old, and I'm at a point right now, if I'm going to settle down, I want to settle down with somebody that primarily has my back. I want him to have a job and be able to take care of himself, at least.
Let me ask you this question before you go any further. Mm-hmm. So does the person that you settle down with, does he have to be a black man, or could he be any man?
I've always been open, but I really prefer a black man. So when I deal with those issues, right. and I have to remember our brothers, and I think our brothers go through a lot more than the sisters go through, in my opinion. And so therefore I have to really pay attention to what's going on around me. Does he have a criminal record?
Right.
Does he have education?
Right.
What's our conversation really like? Can you tell he's always threatened by this degree or something I have to do in the public or in the community? Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly. So those are, again, you have to listen and pay attention when you're dealing with relationships and dating. Dating's very hard because I'm at a point right now, I'm not that young woman that I used to be. I used to like to date and hang out and do all those things, but I don't do that anymore. So when I meet a guy, if all he's talking about is sex, my body, or things that he likes that I have, and it's not necessarily about who I am, that's a turnoff for me. And I'm more so like, okay, I know that there has to be a physical attraction with any relationship or anything to get started, but that can't be the only thing for me. And I'd rather be by myself and not really get deep into a relationship or into a relationship period, unless I know that he's interested in Georgia Turner. I ain't say Dr. Georgia Turner.
Get back on track.
Okay,
It takes
sorry
a lot
about that.
now, I appreciate all the comments. It takes a lot of energy and work, and we should always put that up front. I don't think we do, because it's in hormone attractions, right? And there is energy, and when we look at relationships, and we carry energy, we are energy, and sometimes just that energy is a conflict, or the way she moves or says, or is confirming him or not confirming him in a room, in relationship, talking to other men. But the great thing about it is, like, we had this conversation. I would like to see more collectively of us coming together in a conversation to find these tools, because the Louisville Finest A Talent Showcase, this is what it is about: the media. The media in the books, the media online, the media is everywhere. I'm finding other variables of information, all the way from the chemistry that's going on in our behavior, male-female relationships, why people connect. And you were talking about some statistics. There's some great statistics and information out there. There was a Dr. Shane, an African-American marriage counselor.com. You can go and read some of his information. And this was back in 2009. And he was saying currently only 32% of our black children are born into two-parent families in America. In slavery and up to 1960s, those numbers were in the low 80%.
Can I comment on that? Yeah.
And also the numbers are scary and suggest that black men and women are in the midst of a civil war and that it's got to end. And I know right now, and everybody's kind of been watching Roots, is out about the relationship. If we had a consciousness of what we went through and how our relationships were taken away from us and our children taken away from us, I think it's still some of that energy of my ancestor in me is the reason I've done so much advocacy on civil rights and been the president of NAACP and other things and advocates, because we still got that pain inside of us. I believe it's carried. And like I said, things have gotten worse instead of better. Yes, we got more civil rights, but as I said, I was in an alcoholic home, but I had such a big extended family that we had the comfort and support to get through those things. But a lot of these individuals, I've seen it in the court system. They have on the books now a lot of grandparents' law, because the dad's in prison, the mom's on crack, the grandmother has had a stroke, and I see them going into court trying to keep the nucleus of the family together. So we got all these variables going on. It's like our community, and we're just disintegrating. But we don't have, like I said, back in our ancestry and history, where's the council? Where's the coming of us together and supporting us? There is a lot of information and community conversation to be had with this black media. We got the African American Heritage. They've got a collaboration. This is a one-time event. We come together and put on a presentation, and then we go away. If we're not going to reconnect and do something about it, nothing's going to happen.
Okay. Well, I think that's the purpose of the 2 Not 1 is we need to start having more conversations so we can bring, because I know that gap is really large. So, and that's our goal at 2 Not 1 is to bridge that gap between, young men and women of African American descent, so we can come together, because we are stronger as a people strong together than we are apart. So that's our goal, is to do that.
I'm sorry, I just can't resist. You said two things that I wanted to comment on, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Is that okay?
We got time.
Okay. The one thing that you mentioned was social media. Social media has indoctrinated the world. And the way social media does is, and when you were talking about the civil rights thing, it's an amalgamation of everything. You don't see black anymore. When you see an issue out there, you talk about civil rights and what have you. Civil rights it doesn't belong anymore to black people, because you don't see the black faces. What you see is another face that has more political clout, resources, and it gets it done. I.e., the President of the United States was able, through social media and through law and resources, to get gay marriage in 50 states. He was able to do that right there, whereas he's unable to talk about black history or black civil rights. Can't do that because the resources and the push is just not there. And then when you talked about, there was one other thing I wanted, and Again, Roots, when you make the comments on Roots, that's beautiful. Roots has no residents anymore. The thing that resonates with young people like her, she said she was 20, is empire. That's the new Roots right there. No one's gonna go and look, except me maybe and you and some other people. That's in our generation. There is no connection between the now and the yesterday. I talk to people all the time about history, black history, and we do events and we talk to them. There is no connection. The connection is so weak until it's almost non-existent. Now that's what I think, and I'll contest anybody that says it's not.
I hear what you're saying.
But
And that's,
I'm being passionate about it. It's not toward you.
no. Oh,
But it's
I
more about the
understand.
issues. Okay.
I'll take your energy and put it in the other direction of why we're here.
there's some more questions.
Is to advocate that, like you said, out there in the media, the information is there. Like I said, the media, the movies, and so forth for African American history to help us with these. We're not looking at it, and we are. So they're looking at empire and they're looking at all this stuff, but we don't have the influence of some local leadership or parents to start showing this. Just like coming to the library.
No.
How many comes to the library? It's the same thing. So this is what this movement and stirring up and collaboration and start putting it on Front Street so that people see it. Hi, Janice.
Sometimes we have a tendency to overanalyze things, you know, and relationships are built on three things: economics, compassion, and recovery. Economics, everybody's got to come to the table with something. Okay? I mean, we eat, sleep, everybody comes to the table with something. Economics. Compassion. When those economics are taken away, people lose jobs, people's jobs are taken away, then let's be compassionate and work together to build. Recovery. Work together to recover. Come to the table with something in a relationship. Because you say money does not matter, it does. You know, love, compassion, all that. You know, ECR, economics, compassion, recovery. Basis for relationship. I married late in life, very late in life, intentionally, because I knew that some of the relationships I was in before would not have worked. I just knew myself enough. Probably if I'd married any earlier, I'd just now be getting on probation.
Wow.
So, all I'm saying is, you know, let's not overanalyze. Know what you want, know what you need, look for that person, and don't get in a hurry. End of discussion.
Thank you, and we appreciate
And I
that.
just would like to say, I want to make sure that I'm clear. Yes, we do need money to survive. It's a matter of how much. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that. I don't want to make, I do not want anyone coming to me and saying, Georgia, I need you to take care of me. Georgia can't take care of anybody at this point. But, so that's, you know, I just wanted to clarify. Okay.
I had plenty of questions earlier, but I just want to say I appreciate being here and listening to the discussion on relationship, because I love relationships because that's the backbone of the family.
That's right.
And, you know, I guess 23 years ago is when, you know, my relationship really started to grow. Before that, I had the same issues that everybody else had. But 23 years ago when I started studying the Bible and finding out what, you know, the Bible, I know everybody here might not be Christians, I am. And I found out that right there in that book is everything we need in regards to having a strong relationship. It talks about dating, the process, getting married, the reasons for you getting married, you know, all that's there. And if we apply that and we teach that, we won't have a problem that we're having. Of course, we all imperfect. We fall off the ladder. I fell off the ladder. I'm off the ladder right now because I'm not perfect. But when you teach those Bible principles in the family life, they get back on the ladder and they have a successful family life. Just like me, I was married for 23 years, and I went through a divorce. It may affect my family, but it didn't destroy my family because we communicated with each other. We communicated with my kids. They saw, like my daughter said, they saw a strong male and they saw a strong female, and they saw us communicating with each other, even though we might have had problems in one area, but we didn't have problems in raising our children. And so now they get to do the same thing. They date, You know, and, some of them fall out the ladder. She's a special one. You know, she knows how to do it right. She listens, and so her dating is going really well because
She's your daughter?
yeah,
Okay,
because
okay.
she understands that dating is just to get to know a person.
Yes,
You don't
yeah.
need to give up the cookies.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
You know, do anything to get married. You know.
Well, we have to talk about that too.
In relationships, talk all day long about relationships, there's so many areas.
There's so many.
But the area that I focus on, because I'm not a preacher, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a passionate entrepreneur that learned about business for over 30 years. And I know that one of the biggest problems with family, especially the black family, is money. And we don't talk about money. We don't educate our kids on how to handle money, how it works. You know, the whole system of money. So I have a saying, get money out of the way. Male, female, whoever's making the money, you got to get it out of the way in the family so the family can grow and not worry about that. That's the biggest problem.
You're right. We have to work on money, get it out the way, but we have to start looking at changing some mindsets. And I really think
Changing mindset.
I think the federal government basically put us in a position with family and our housing, and where they were put out of the family and more so said, we're going to give you welfare and we're going to give you public housing, but that man cannot be there. He needs to go. And we're going to keep taking care of you. See, federal government became the father. Now it's time to bring fathers back into the lives of their children and let them take care of their children.
She had a question too right there.
Oh, yeah. This young lady has a question.
Yeah, I have like a few quick comments. One, I've noticed that we put so much emphasis on gender roles, I think, when we talk about relationships. But I feel like there's a shift in gender roles taking place now, which is changing the dynamic of relationships.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, yes, I do agree. We talked about how economics definitely play a role. But I also, being young, I'm 21 also, I find myself in situations where, because of economics, and because like I'm in school and I'm in college, men feel like, kind of like what you were saying, intimidated, but also just like, I feel like I have to compromise my success or my goals to be able to make a man feel comfortable, which is like, that shouldn't have to be the case. But, so we say this shouldn't be the case, but yet we emphasize this domineering male figure and this like breadwinner idea. So I feel like there needs to be some room for compromise or some room for some type of like mediation between those two ideas, because I just feel like that's not relevant anymore. And also back to, you were talking about roots and empire and stuff. I also feel like that's not... Roots is relevant, yes, that is part of our cultural history, definitely, but why can't we talk about a black identity outside of slavery?
Right.
Because I feel like you
I agree
can't,
with you, yes.
we keep trying to put these paradigms onto like
Right.
modern relationships and it fails.
Right.
So,
I agree with you.
I don't know, there's like a
And-
tone of
and-
sexism, I think, a little bit kind of come in here. and
Yeah, but I think
definitely
it's what she
sexism-
said. I think we
yeah.
overanalyze some things, especially when it
Overanalyze.
comes to
Yeah.
like empire and roots. I think we kind of overanalyze things
And
too.
not even that specific. I feel like that example was an example for a bigger kind of issue.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like you can't. I don't think you can put 1950s standards on a 2016
Right.
relationship. I'm not saying you can't put those values on it, but it's not going to look the same.
Right.
And like making it try to look the same is not.
I think that's what I was saying. Who is the head of the household? Who would be the head of the household? Doctor?
Who would be the head of the household?
If you follow the Christian method, so who is the head of the household? And I heard Christianity brought up in there a couple of times. So who is the head of the household? Which
I
means
share
that
that.
we're talking about patriarchy versus matriarchy.
Well, I do believe that my household, I
Right.
believe that the man that I decide to marry again, or not again, but the man that I decide to marry, he would basically, I would hope that I marry a man that could be the head of my household.
So who would be the head of your household then, young lady? So
I mean, I feel like why does it have to be a binary? Whoever is most capable at that moment. I feel like it's a
man or woman, doesn't
relationship
matter,
that's
what you're saying.
Yeah, I really do feel that way. Or why can't it be both? I don't understand why you have to put this
Right.
imposing figure.
To bring it back full circle, and what she was saying, I think it would be self-determined, and you asked, everything's going to be negotiable because it's not going to be a one-size-fit-all. When you bring all those other variables, we said.
But I think when you speak of head of household, I'm sorry, Miss Janice, but when you speak of head of household, it's not that he's dominating the whole thing, but you do, yes, you have to be
I want to
mindful
get
of
back
that
on
piece.
task though, but individually,
Yes.
like I say, we're all seeing things differently. Your model, his model, there could be a different
So
model
who be the head of your household, Ms. Janice?
based on the model we negotiate. And this is based on my belief, which I shared. You're not going to change it. I enjoy and like the man being the head of the household.
Okay, there you go.
But that doesn't make me right. That doesn't make me right or wrong. And the different individual cultures in the room. And the other thing is acceptance, because sometimes the relationship is not going to work.
Yeah.
And part of it, the negotiation process, each person has the right to step away from the table, because it is all about negotiation. It's about the culture. And it still came full circle we talked about the president's relationship, that model. Everybody sees and would love to see that model, but still we don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
There's a lot of relationships that look one way, and I know we still don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line in any kind of relationship, your husband, your whatever system you're setting up, if it's causing you suffering and pain, stressing you out, if it's an interdependent relationship, it's a husband or it's a sister, whatever, you still have the right to take care of you. It's an inside job, and you can walk away from the table. You can love them, but you can love them at a distance. Sometimes in the negotiation process, you just have to use the other tools of acceptance.
Who's leading the household? How about a discussion of who has the best skill set? Communicating that and then coming to an agreement. It's not about leading or controlling. It's about coming to an understanding. Who can do what best? My husband puts things together good. I don't want to put it together. I want it to work when I turn it on. So, it's about compassion, understanding and communicating to see who has the best skill set and then executing it in the best interest of the household.
And
But
it
I think
shift,
we get-
and what you said, because it could shift sometimes, so when it's something that you can do. So let's say I think the young lady said too, why we got to put a term on it? It just is.
But
what
that's
it
the
is.
problem. I
It
think
just-
because the terms are throwing people off. Because you say head of the household, and the male being the head of the household, it brings about, okay, he's
It all
over
depends.
everything. But
It all
I think it's on the term.
Yeah.
I mean, just because he is the male and he's the head of the household doesn't mean he dominates the whole thing.
But-
He also works with his wife also.
Right. Our time is about wrapping up, and I'd just like to thank the audience for all your participation to make this a very engaging, collaborative communication. And I'm sure everybody has gotten some different information. I know I have, and different perspectives. And to still make available to be able to go to the Louisville Finest, a talent showcase that comes on Channel 98. This will be televised. And also check the internet outside of looking at TV and Empire and so forth. There's Black and Married with Kids DVD out. It's a time when African American men are often depicted poorly throughout mainstream media. And there's one gentleman, Mr. Tyler, New Media breaks the trend with Men Ain't Boys. And I know that always seems to be something that just really cuts our men down. And when our men are hurting and we're sometimes the chatter of talking about bills and stuff, they don't want to hear that. But the outside influences against the world. But the results of effective fatherhood and the requirements for maintaining love, relationships, and marriages, Men Ain't Boys provides a blueprint for men and children to learn how real men live and how they love.